Hello and welcome back. In this tutorial we're making a sugar rose using my signature rapid rose method, coloured in lots of beautiful pinks inspired by Barbie. You'll be able to find your rapid rose kit and all of our gorgeous colours on our website immaculateconfections.co.uk. I hope you enjoy the tutorial. So I've done a little rose and done some berries for dusting and some leaves, which will do additional dustings with that. And I don't know why I made so many leaves, but anyway, I did. And I have dusted them, and you can see like this is a tremendous exercise in what a difference dusting makes if you look. And I just think these are so pretty. And I remember years and years ago doing a wedding cake for somebody, and it was more of a coral colour than this. So I had sort of those kind of pale orange corally colours as a base. But the whole thing was this, and it's gorgeous. Working with a monochrome like that can be so pretty and make such a statement in a completely different way than if you had, say, a black cake with flowers on or a navy cake or something. So yeah, this is what we're going to do this evening, and of course we'll dust up the rose and the berries and put it all together at the end. So I know there was someone asking recently, and I can't remember who, maybe we'll find it in the group. Someone asked about videos of putting a posy together, and that's effectively what this will be. For all these movie themed ones, as we call them, are dressed up with the movies, what it always eventually involves creating a little posy as well. So you can adapt all of the techniques and methods, etc., to whatever project you fancy. So we'll start, what will we do? We'll do a couple of leaves and a few berries first. Yes, we will, because that works for us colour-wise. So I've got some colours mixed up here, but I'm going to show you mixing a little bit as well. So the thing that's nice with doing something like this is that usually you're only going to need one pot of colouring. So I'm using our magenta, which is a lovely pink, you know, as you can see here. And the thing that's good about it is you can use just a tiny bit of colouring, or you can use a lot of colouring and make more than one shade of pink from the same pot. So you don't actually need to go and buy a pale pink and a deep pink and a hot pink and whatever it is. You can just use differing amounts of colouring from one. So for example, more in there, tiny bit in here, as you can see, and I shall mix the two up. Oh, Vicky, so the blue one, that was the, I reckon we need to do that again actually. Was that the one that we called the willow pattern themed? Because I loved that. I love willow pattern things. I think.
Oh, like the crockery ware.
Yeah. I think blue and white is a tremendous colour combination. I think it can be really, really elegant. I'm not sure that the traditional willow pattern stuff always hits the mark. It can be a bit ye olde stately home-esque, but yeah, it can be that. Like, I'm glad I like that one too. It's one of the ones we lost actually in the great melt of 2020.
Oh yeah.
Sadly. So yeah, more colour, tiny bit of colour, and basically we've just got paler shade to do the rose in, slightly deeper shade for the leaves, as you can see, and then for the berries, just a combination of the two, because I figure we can sort of ombre that in some fashion. Right, so some nice little rose leaves is all we're going to do now, and I'm just rolling this out nice and thin. Not so thin that it becomes a liability and it's going to fall apart, but thin enough that we'll get a nice delicate end. I'm going to pop a little bit cornflower front and back. I'll cut a couple of leaves. Okay, so that's a yes for the monochrome colour joggies. So a couple there. we'll pop them onto our petal pad, and I'm just going to use a ball tool to smooth out the edges, or sort of not so much smooth as thin, yeah. There we go. Gives it a bit of shape, thins down those edges, softens the edges. That's what I usually say, isn't it? And then we'll make a couple of twiddles. Now these, I'm going to do them on 28 gauge. You can do 26 gauge as well, which is fine. I happen to have 28 here, so that's what I'm going to use. I'll grab the snips. So I just cut this into, I use some of these for berries and some of these for the leaves, so it's all right. So to do a twiddle, that is basically, you can see here, we're going to put a little sausage of paste onto the wire and then use that to attach the wire to the leaf. Right, so I'm going to pop a little bit of water, or glue, either, onto there, and then insert that into the sausage, and then you're sort of pinching and twisting to twist and twiddle the paste down the wire, hence the name for the technique. So that is one way you can do it. It takes a bit of practice, but you know. And then we'll do, if you want to do another one, so again a little bit of water there, you can also start it off in your fingers and then do it on the petal pad. So we've got lots of students who do it this way as well, and it's not so much a right or a wrong, it's just however you feel most comfortable doing it. So we're going to pop a little bit of water on there and just place that little leaf on top. And you can see the wires there is sort of, you know, 2/3, a little bit more than that, the length of it. And then I'm going to take my veiner, and it's an FMM one, it's very simple. Just give it a really good press, like so, to pop those veins on. And then we can just come around the edge, like so. Give it a little bit of shape back, and then what I like to do is give quite a heavy pinch and crease at the base there, as you can see, and we'll remove any excess. Give it a little bend and a shape, and then that there is a nice little rose leaf. So 2 nice little leaves, and we can just pop them into a bit of polystyrene to dry, or you can stick them on some shaping foam, flower drying foam, whatever. And I've done mostly big ones. I've done a couple of the medium size as well, slightly smaller, bit of a mixture. So that's those. We'll do a couple of simple berries as well. So you can see here that I've just done a range of colours, from the sort of darker colour of the leaves and through to some sort of paler ones. You can play with that. We're going to dust them anyway, so that's fine. And to do berries, I always use the candle method, which I don't think we've done for a little while, have we? Is it? Right, so we will take some paste and roll a little ball. And remember, you're going to be fairly firm in your rolling, so you don't get any lines in it. And I always find that a little bit of Trex or a little bit of petal base, which is glorified white veggie fat, is really good for rolling nice smooth little balls. And there was a little tip that Vicky gave us the other week when she came on and we did those adorable little cats. And she said the reason is because physics. That if you roll one way, so I'm kind of currently going counterclockwise, and then roll the other way, that apparently that is a really good way to not get lines and cracks in your paste as well, which I thought was very interesting. So I've got my little berries ready, and then we're just going to heat the wire in the candle, And when the wire is red hot, quickly insert it. If you get that little puff of smoke, then you'll know that it is hot enough. It's melted the flour paste and the sugar, and as you can see, it has stuck it on straight away. And it is a great technique for working quickly. So we can do that. If you are doing something where you want your wires to not burn, then one trick is to wet it first and then hold it in the flame, because the wet just helps stop the paper from burning, because it's just the paper that's burning. And then we'll insert it and you get that little puff of smoke. And I don't know if you can see there, but with the berries, I'm just inserting it a little bit further through. So there's a little bit sticking out the top, which is very berry-like and quite nice. And then the final little tip for doing berries, if you find you're doing them and it does catch and you end up with far too much of your wire burnt, don't worry about it. Just heat it up and insert it as normal. But when you do insert it, keep pushing till the end of the burnt bit. So you can see we've got really long tops sticking out of that, but that's okay. We can just snip that off and nobody would ever know that you had had that long bit sticking out the top. So that's how I do some berries. And I've just made, I don't know, probably about a dozen there, something like that, which we'll take together a little bit later on. Which brings us now on to doing the rose. So we're going to do, this is a rapid rose. It is, just in case we've any, do we have any new folk with us? I haven't seen this before, let me know. So I do these using 5-petal cutters and rapid rose pad, which is this green bit. This is the bit that makes it easy. I'll always use a polystyrene ball inside, and we use the same size cutter for each row of petals. So if you're using a smaller cutter, you're going to make a smaller rose, a larger cutter makes a larger rose. This evening I'm using a 20mm polystyrene ball, so that's a 2cm ball with the 9cm cutter, and I'm also going to use a veining stick just to give it a little extra fanciness, I don't know what you would call it. Yeah, and like, it comes with the rapid rose kits come with a tutorial which you can download. It's in my book, the first one, and then it's also something like, there's a bunch of videos. So I'm going to cut 2 of my five petal shapes and 1 single petal. And again, I'm rolling it thin. Like, does that show? That's the one thing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you can see it certainly.
But yeah,
if you've got it in between fingers.
But nice and thin for that sort of delicate look, and that will help avoid fat bottoms. Also helps if you roll it big enough. There we go, right. So that's one. And I want another one of those in a single. Right, so I have got 2 of my 5-petal shapes cut out and 1 single petal. I'm going to add some veins quickly. So with your veiner, remember that it's tapered, so you're moving in an arc. So for this petal, I'm just going to do it like so. And then here we'll just do each petal like that. What? That was there. Well, we have the windows open because it still can't decide whether it is summer, spring, autumn, or what.
It's very much summer today. Very much summer. At the end of August.
What, at last?
Well, no, to be fair, September can often be.
Well, is it May, like you said earlier, May and June was really nice.
Yeah.
And if you find you're sticking, you can pop a little bit more corn flour in there. And again, we're just going around in that arc shape. You're one day of summer, yeah. Seems that way sometimes, doesn't it? There we go. So that's veins on them all. Here's the single one back. So we're just going to go around that edge there. I'm going to go around the edges of these ones as well. Hello, Poppy.
Oh, sorry. Squished it.
Did you? This, Sandra, is a veining stick, so it's got wavy lines on it that it will put onto the petals as you go. And I use it for literally everything. I will vein roses, peonies, alstromerias, like the whole lot pretty much with one of these. And that's it, instead of 5,000 different silicone veiners. I love this thing to pieces. We do sell them, and I did answer your question. Very good. So just round the edge with your ball tool, and you know, we want a soft wave. We don't want to make it too frilly. Just a nice wave. And then what I'll do with one of these is just curl those edges back a little bit, because then this can sit and set for a little while whilst it's whilst we're working on the other one. That was a proper howl, actually.
Well, I think I squashed her leg.
Oh, is that what happened?
Yeah.
So you can see we're just curling them back, and the trick here is don't curl the side. You don't want to make that weird sort of square shape there. You want to curl just the edge so that that round bit becomes triangular. Yes, that is always my preference to do it on here, because you get a much better impression. Yeah. Right. So that one can just stay there and set for a bit, and we are very almost ready to go. Right. So the first thing we want to do with here, so that is it. It's 2 centimetre ball, 20 mil, and it's just hot glued to a 20 gauge wire. So you just pop in a little spot of hot glue on there, insert the wire or a cocktail stick through the glue, and that is going to be nice and solid for you. And we're just going to take a little ball, point the end off, and we're going to use a bit of water to squash that onto the top, like giving it a little pixie hat. And you can see I'm squashing quite vigorously. And all we're doing here is just turning our ball into a bud shape, as you can see. Couple of reasons that I do it this way. The first one is it is much cheaper to buy craft polystyrene balls than it is to buy cake polystyrene buds. Is the first reason. The second reason is that using the polystyrene ball makes this much, much lighter. And actually, someone was asking in the group in the week about flowers being heavy, and then the first thing everyone said was, well, we've got polystyrene middle, so that is really handy. And then the third reason is that having used the same colour on that bit on top, anything peeking through those little central petals is looking on the same colour instead of onto white polystyrene. So it works doing it this way. We are going to begin with a single petal, as I'm sure you can guess. I'm going to turn it over, because you're always going to turn everything over. If you think you've used the ball tool and the ball tool makes it curl up, we want our petals to curl away from the rose. So you turn it over, and then when you attach them to the rose, the petals are coming away. This first one, he goes on sideways. So you're not putting it on like that, you're putting it on like that, because you get a much longer bit to wrap round. So with that in mind, apply some water to the bottom half, which you can see it's there. And you're going to put the bud on. And can you see there's about a centimetre, half an inch sticking up above the tip of the bud of petal. And the trick here is bring that pointy end in. And can you see the pointy end has gone from being pretty much vertical, horizontal sideways to vertical coming down. You want to pop a little extra bit of water just there so that you can curl that edge right in. And that is the trick to getting a nice curl at the top, is making sure that the inside is stuck in. Because now that that is in, this bit will come round. Do you see there's more than enough of it to come round on top? So it's sort of, don't ever be frightened of pulling them around. It's stronger than you think. And just remember that you're coming round and down and then tuck that corner in, and then that other side will come round on top. It's very much cone shaped at this point as well. So you've got to make sure that you have that round and down action to form a cone. If you just come round, you're going to end up with a bishop's hat or like a shirt collar, and that's not the right shape. One thing I will say is that I know that emboss the paste, exactly, Mo. So yes, this is the trickiest bit. So we will do the next bit. So this is where your rapid rose pad comes in, little green baby. Turn them over, and you can see this is our flat one. We haven't pre-curled those edges. And we're going to do a little bit of water on the edge and in the middle even, and align up each edge. And with this one, we're going to use 2 petals first and then the remaining 3. So we're going to get sort of 2 for the price of 1 in terms of our rows of petals. You're going to pop that through the middle. And the trick here is make sure, don't hold it flat on your hand like that, because there's no resistance. Make sure that you're properly holding it so that there is resistance when you start arranging the petals. Pick any one to begin with, lift it up and attach one side, like so. Spin it 180 degrees, lift the opposite one and attach that same side. So can you see that we've created like 2 little wings there? As always, if you need an extra little bit of water to make something stick, that's fine. You're going to make the paste do what you want. It's going to stick where you want. You can pull it around more than you think. So indeed, emboss the paste. 2 little wings. We're going to close them up. So we can bring that bit round onto his neighbour just there, and this bit round onto his neighbour there. Now that bit here, I can see straight away, we just need an extra little spot of water, and it's just a tiny bit, just to help it stick. And then just with our fingers, we can curl those edges back, like so. Again, just think about the way that a rose grows, and it's those outside edges that you're curling back, and just with your fingers. If it's uneven, it's like we have a bit more of a gap there, we can just use pokey tool, Dresden, spoon end of a Dresden's my favourite, to adjust it. And now we're going to do the same with those remaining 3. So we'll stick on one side of one, spin it around a third, one side of the next, spin it around a third, and with this last one, you can see to get them equally spaced, I've just got to shuffle him over that way a little bit, which is fine. So now I've got 3 little wings sitting up, and again, that comes round on top there, that comes round on top there, and then that one comes round on top there. At this point, we can get rid of our rapid rose pad, turn it over, and just press that down. And this is super important. I don't know, some of you are going to laugh when I say this because you've heard me say it 1,000 times. Where the ball is the strength. Press as hard as you want where the ball is. The top, it ain't going anywhere, right? None of that is going to fall apart. So don't squash the top. You do not need to squash the top for fear that it's going to fall apart. So squeeze where the ball is, leave the top alone. And just like we did before, you can come and just curl back those edges a little bit. And I'm just using my fingers. And like, do you see here, there's like a little crease in it? That's fine. It just gives us a little bit of extra variation. Sometimes I'll come and sort of almost roll it. Again, you can use the Dresden to just open it up. you're just playing till it got a nice shape, but just seriously don't squeeze the top, because the thing that people don't realise about roses, two things. The first one is that the gaps are as important as the petals. You need those gaps and the shadows that the gaps create to kind of give the whole thing its shape and depth and definition. So don't squeeze it and thus remove the gaps, is the first thing. And then the second thing is you want those petals to remain quite upright. Again, for anyone who hasn't seen this before, there's a lot of weird hand movements, but I think they make sense. I've been told they make sense and they're helpful. So imagine my hands as the rosebud. The petals are anchored at the base. So as they open, they do this, right? So they don't bend back. They don't do that. They just do that. So if
they
you
don't
think,
bend back from the top.
Yeah, they don't bend back on themselves like that. They stay in that sort of upright petally shape. So if you look at this, can you see what I mean? You're maintaining that open shape. It's started to unfurl, and this is the point we're at. So you don't want to squeeze the top and kind of make it, we don't want it to sort of do this on itself, but equally we don't want it to do that. So you want to maintain that sort of straight shape with those gaps. You should be able, as you can here, to see that gap almost all the way down to the bottom. Does that make sense? This is it. Don't squeeze it. Do you know what? And it's funny, Sandra, because you turn it into a joke, as it were. Yeah, and people do remember. It still makes me laugh. It's nearly 3 years ago now that we taught dahlias the first time. And anytime someone makes them and posts a picture of the group, they're like, wild and free. It makes me giggle every time. So actually, we all need a new catchphrase for the pom-pom dahlia in September. Anyway, I digress. So yes, just don't squeeze it, is all I'm saying. So I'll pop that to one side for a second. This is the one that we pre-curled a bit, and that's just because with 5 petals going on to make a row of 5, it gets a bit much if you try and do it all on it. And because we rolled and curled it when we did the cut it with the others, this has had time to set. So you can see there's plenty of movement in it, but it's also setted. It's what they call leather hard, which is a sort of clay making term. So if you've watched Pottery Throwdown, I'd imagine that would make sense. Yeah. So water in the middle and a little line up each edge again. We're going to pop our rose through the centre. And then with this one, we're going to use all 5. So we'll start with one and again attach that one side. Turn it round for the next one and attach that same side. So you can see we've got 2 standing up there. We're not going to try and do all 5 standing as wings because there's just too many, it gets out of hand. So what we'll do now is take the second side of that first one and just pop him on top there. And then we can go around again, pop that next bit just inside, that comes on top, and we press that closed. That goes just inside, bring that on top there, spin it round, that last one goes just inside, that goes on top there, and if we've done it right, the last open bit will go on top of the first bit that we attached, sort of completing the sequence and giving us that inside outside pattern of rose petals. We can turn it over again, and just a quick little check that you can do here. You should only be able to see one side of each rose petal. If at any point you can see both sides of a petal, then you've gone wrong with your pattern at some point. But if you're happy with it, again, give it a press. And can you see I'm only pressing where the ball is, don't squeeze the top. We can come with, again, spoon end of the Dresden, which actually it's still got yellow colouring on it, so I'm just going to clean that quickly. We can take this, we can slip it in between the petals and make sure, hopefully you can see what I'm doing there, that our inside edges are pressed in, like so. We can then, if needs be, accentuate the opening of our outside edges a little. As it happens, I'm really happy with the curls on those. Sometimes you might need to uncurl it a bit, adjust it, or in some other fashion just sort of tart it up and pinch it around till it looks right. But actually the curls on those have come up really, really nicely. And that is about it. Again, make sure that you keep that straight line. Don't ever let your petals do that, because they just don't. So you want to kind of keep that straight line. You want to keep those nice gaps. And just remember me and my silly thing with my hands. There's the closed, slightly open, more open. It's not doing that. And you can, of course, add more petals if you wish. It's in the PDF that comes with the kit, or indeed we've got, we have 5 pinks in the range. We've got our soft pink and our rosy pink, and then we've got our bright magenta, mega pink and violet pink. Now actually this is going to be a really good opportunity. So you know how we often talk about the fact that your very bright pinks and purples are not edible. They're non-toxic, but they're not edible. Therefore, you can use them on removable decorations such as sugar flowers, etc. Having all the pinks out is, as it happens, a really good opportunity to sort of show you guys that. Can you see the difference in the tone and colour of them? So these ones, which are the edible ones, are much duller, whereas this one is, these are much, much brighter. And this is why as well, because people always ask about doing like a bright Cadbury purple fondant or whatever. It's not possible within stuff that's within the EU or the UK because of this particular food colouring. This particular food colouring, however, is still allowed to be used and eaten in, for example, America, Canada, New Zealand and Australia, which is why, for example, Americolour do a pink and a purple that are, you know, Cadbury purple and this level of pink. So it's just, this was just an opportunity to explain it, because I know it's something that sort of comes around a few times. Like we said, this stuff, it's not going to do any harm, and especially in the sort of quantity that you're going to have, you know, like this, it really isn't going to do you any harm. But you can just you can see the difference there, can't you, between them?
Yeah.
Right, shall we start with the leaves? Because I have just done Mickey Mouse and magenta, you're absolutely right. So for the leaves, I'm going to use one of our shiny new medium flat brushes. And we want, I just think they're just so pretty. Look, I love them. So our base for those, I am going to mix up a little bit of bright magenta, some rosy pink, just to tone it down a bit, and a little bit of mega pink to make it slightly darker. So can you see that is our base colour that we're starting with? So I'm just going to come up from the bottom and in from the edges with that. So a little up from the bottom and again in from the edges, just give us a bit of definition and a bit of tone around the outside there. It's a really pretty colour actually. It's sort of, it's not quite the highlighter pink of the bright magenta. It's not as deep and rich as the mega pink, but equally it's not as salmony as these ones are. So yeah, it's a nice, really nice middle ground. As always, the key is those little repetitive brush strokes that blend the colour as it goes on. You can see my brush is pretty much perpendicular, you can pick them up if you prefer, to the edge of the leaves, which is what gives us that nice colour around the edges, like so. I've got one more just here. And then what we'll do, I'm just going to move to a slightly smaller brush so that I can be a bit more precise, and We'll do a little bit of mega pink, just deepen up those bits, and a little bit of violet pink. And the violet pink has got that gorgeous, rich, sort of purplish tone in it. So a little bit of that here and there on the edges and at the base. It just gives us a really, really nice, rich colour profile, for want of a better word. So you can absolutely either mix with white to make them paler, or dilute them down with cornflower, Sandra. And actually, when we come to dust the rose, that is exactly what I'm going to do, just so that I've got a little bit more control over how much we're adding. So again, a little bit of mega pink, just deepen that up. We'll do a touch of violet pink, like so. Again, it's just, yeah, soft, repetitive brush strokes. I think I've got 2 left. I made so many leaves. I'm not really sure why I made so many leaves, but anyway. Here we are, despite the fact. So a little bit extra just there. There we are. I just think they're really pretty, really, really pretty. Now, to maintain some contrast, I don't want the rose to be too dark, because we want to keep a bit of contrast between the rose and the leaves. So if the rose is lighter, then obviously that's going to happen. Right, so to start with, I think I am going to take a bit of cornflower, just to dilute the colour. So cornflower, it doesn't make it whiter, because the cornflower isn't white, but what it does is it dilutes it, the same as adding water to watercolour. The more water you add, the less pigment there is in there, therefore the colour comes up paler. And I think I'm going to go for a little bit of soft pink and a little bit of bright magenta, and maybe a little bit more soft pink there, just to tone that down, and a bit more cornflower, because I have created quite a lot of colour there and it got quite bright. And Sandra, it does, I may have just answered your question, but it does 2 different things. And I would say experiment with the 2, because what cornflower does, think of it in terms of paint. It's the best thing I can say. So adding white powder, the white dust, is like adding white to paint, as opposed to adding the cornflower is like adding water. So if you add the cornflower, it just means that for each sort of brushful, there's less pigment in the mixture. Whereas if you're adding the white dust, what you have is a new mixture that includes white pigment as well as coloured pigment. I hope that makes sense, because I can't think of another way to explain it. But if you were to sit and sort of play with both, you'd see the difference. So I'm hoping, yeah, so there's only a little bit of colour coming off here, and I just tested it underneath. So as a starting point, I've got that cornfloury mixture, and I'm just going to come and catch those edges. And you can see I'm coming from the outside in with my brush more or less perpendicular to the petals, so that I'm just catching those outside bits. Like so. And you can see already it just gives it a little bit of extra tone there. We can take just a little bit more. Now I've got my deeper colours sitting on this brush, so again I'm going to grab a little bit of cornflower and just sort of mix that in, just so that I'm keeping control. And we can add a little hint of the darker colours here and there to it. So I'm just kind of aiming for the peaks of the petals. That was a bit much, so I can retone that down there. If I grab our undusted one, look, you can see the difference. It's pretty subtle, but we want it that way. so that we've got plenty of contrast with the leaves. Which means that the last but not least thing here is just those little berries. So yes, Victoria the 30th is the answer there. Right, and I'm just going to split these into their darker and lighter. So I think I've got some I made with the rose colour, some I made with the leaf colour, and then I've just got a small handful that I did with a sort of mixture of the two. Oh no, it was a bunch of geese flying over.
It was.
So I'll just take some of the paler colour and just dust from the bottom up so that they've got a sort of two-tone effect. And again, it's that repetitive flicky brush strokes that will give you a nice blend. These are my middle colour, so I can take a slightly darker dust that's just sitting there. Like so. And then finally, I can take something a little bit darker, again, to use on those darker berries. There we go. Right, so I've got some white tape that I'm going to cut to a quarter width, and if I grab one of these, you'll actually be able to see. There we are. Actually, no, not a quarter, I'll do a third, should be sufficient. And then we can start with, let's start with the berries. Actually, no, I'm not going to start with berries, I'm going to start with some leaves. Change my mind. They're so pretty. I'm obsessed. Now, rose leaves grow in opposite pairs, but I always think that looks a bit naff on sugar flowers, so I actually tend to offset them a little bit. So I shall start with a small one, and I will add my tape on there, like so. I've done a really bad job at that, never mind. I've got another little one, so this was the medium size, and we can hold that alongside and wrap that tape. And then there was another smallish one, but again, and can you see it? I just offset them ever so slightly, and I just think it looks a little bit nicer than when they're exact opposites. Bring the tape down a little bit more. Get this out of the way now. And actually we can make this into a sort of longish branch, so I can add some larger ones again, just off to the right, and then in a second we'll go off to the left. But yeah, posy picks is the easiest way. So about 1 million years ago, Dee asked if there was an easy way of attaching tape. So what I do is, and I just end up, I'm doing this really fast, but it's exactly the same as what it is that I'm doing each time. So lay the tape over, you can't really see that. Lay the tape over the wire, fold it under, pincer it, wrap round once or twice to get it attached, and then you can twist. So fold, pincer, wrap around, and then twist. And that is going to get it on there and attached nicely and securely right from the off. And that is basically what I'm doing when you see me do it quickly. It's just, you know, at that point my fingers are going off of pure muscle memory and it's all happening quite fast. One thing there, this is a nice little thing, is just making sure that you bring your, because this is a bigger leaf, it just needs a bit of a bigger gap. Because otherwise, if it was all the way up there, it's not really going to look very branchy. Whereas if I move it down here, you can see it's kind of branch-like, which is what we want. What's that? I think that might... We'll see how we go. We'll see how we go. And then what I can do is just dust up these stems. I've just got a bit of violet pink on my fingers, violet pink, mega pink, whatever you fancy. Yes, and you do, of course, that's a very good point, Dawn. You do want to stretch the tape out, because if you think that the tape is sort of, it's crinkled up paper with a kind of gluey gum in those creases. So by stretching it, you're exposing the gluey gumminess. Right. So we've got those. I've got some spares. And then for the berries, I think it might be nice to do some quite tight clusters of the colours coming down. So I shall start with those three there. And again, attach the tape. As I said, it is basically exactly what I just showed you. I just do it quick. So remember, overlap it, fold it, hold it, wrap round, and then you can just, you're away and you can twist. So I'm just going to keep adding some in as we come down. Like that. These make me think of, what are the raspberries that are a pinky peachy colour? Are they like cloudberries or something? I've got a feeling they are Scandinavian.
I'm not sure.
But yeah, I would keep this one like that. And of course you could make these with as many plumptress berries as you wish, or indeed as few. But I'm sort of running out of berries, so we'll just have that many. Snowberries. There we go. So I wasn't making it up.
I didn't say that.
That was just to myself, really. So again, I can start with 2 or 3, just varying the heights a bit. Get that tape attached. Tape is a pain, but it's one of those things. The more you do it, it becomes fairly second nature, and you run off of muscle memory more than anything else. So whilst I do the last few of these, I shall preempt the next question. No, I haven't put a calyx on the rose. If you wish to do so, of course you can. I just haven't bothered because it's very unlikely that when we've put this together, you're going to be able to see the underneath of the rose. I tend not to bother because most of the time you can't see it. Just so. Someone always asks that, don't they?
Yes.
So those are the little berries, and I think what I'm going to do is just take a little extra bit of my mega pink to catch those stems and just re-go over that whole thing a bit. So can you see we've got a nice colour fade there. Just do pink. Yeah, I mean, you definitely want to do a pink calyx if you were doing a calyx. But on this occasion, I'm going to not. Right, so those are all the bits ready. Right, we'll start with our rose in the middle. Full width tape. I have him here, and I'm just going to get this attached. Same technique as before. And we'll just bring it more or less up to the top so that it is well and truly attached. And then we just want to start adding these leaves. And you can see here, so can you see, what did we call it? We doglegged it, wasn't it? And can you see the funny shape that's bent into that so that it will sit underneath and then they come up. So we'll hold it alongside and just wrap that tape round like so. We can add in some berries, which again, if we bend them like that, it should sit about there. Oh yeah, sorry, hang on. So actually, I'll bend that a little bit lower down. And again, we'll wrap that tape around like so. And I might, at this point, just bring that tape all the way down to encompass all of the tails of the wires there, so that it's nicely attached, especially because this is ever so slightly slimy tape, as you get sometimes. There we are. Let's see, we've got, this can come under there because that's quite a nice shape, isn't it, for it all? So again, we're holding it in place and wrapping that tape round, and in a second I'm going to have to clean my fingers because it really is just sticky. I think it's sort of on the stickier side as you get sometimes, but also just the, so we were saying about something soft. I'm just going to use my petal pad. Okay, clean my fingers off. Okay, we've got some more berries which could come, yeah, over there I think, or maybe about there. I need to put, alright, hang on, berries can go there. So let's just get another bit of tape. And I always, whenever I'm putting bigger posies like this together, just get the tape on, get everything secured, because you can always go over it all again to neaten it up if you need to. But again, who's looking at the underneath of it? I think getting everything attached securely is more important, and getting it to stay where you want it, because I always find that I'll be holding things and it's like, there, it's exactly there that it needs to go, and then it's just a bit of a race to get that tape on. So I had a couple of big single leaves there, which maybe we could have one of them about there, I think. So again, we'll wrap that tape round. You can see it's not neat, but we want it to work rather than worry about it being neat. And once I've got this bit on, we'll have a little look and see if we think we want anything more. Which actually, if I give those a little bend and a tweak, bring that under there. It's always this thumb.
Starts to go.
Yeah. Probably, I'd imagine. In fact, I'd imagine all the aches and pains I have in my hands is just going to be repetitive strain, isn't it? Really. Which means, can you imagine, you go to the doctor, they say, oh, don't use it for 6 weeks. It's like, no, I'll just, you know, sure.
Wait till it falls off.
Yeah. I think that's probably it, isn't it?
I think so. It looks about done.
Sitting there, we can give those a little curl over. I'm not sure. I don't know how I feel about those berries, you know.
With both of them? Or
Yeah, maybe.
No.
Oh, actually, there we go, look. It's better if they're together. I think what was bothering me, and those of you that have done the design course with us are probably going to know what I'm about to say. It was bothering me that we had two lots of symmetry going on, whereas now we've got the berries clustered up on the one side, and then we got the leaves sort of sticking out the other. I think that works a little bit better. And it is very pretty, and it is very pink, and I definitely think that, what is it, Barbara Millicent Roberts?
Was that our last name?
That's her whole name, I think so. I think that would work.
I think you would.
And yeah, it is. So it's interesting doing that, the sort of studying it all. Where's the camera for you guys? There. Having it all the one colour and playing with those 5 different pinks. And if you've enjoyed this, then I will absolutely do this in other colours, because this kind of thing makes me happy, because I just love playing with colours. So we'll definitely revisit the willow pattern thing if you guys are up for that. I hope you enjoyed that video. You'll find links to our website and our group on Facebook in the description below. Don't forget, give us a like and subscribe to the channel, and why not check out one of these other videos we've got.